Now, today I want to talk about the number one question that everybody asks me as a self-activation coach, and that is, what is my purpose? Now, the first thing I want to say is that if anybody tries to tell you what your purpose is, you should run. Only you can find your purpose, but there are many things that we can look at so that we can understand what that is. Now, today I'm going to talk about how you can find your purpose, or what I call is your success niche. Now, I use human design as the basis for my methodologies, and human design has a lot of things that will guide you to what your purpose is. And in human design, it really talks about differentiation, how the very things that make you unique or what are different about you is where you're going to find your purpose. Now, it also draws a little bit from the Japanese concept of Ikigai, which talks about how you can also find your purpose by looking at what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what the world will pay you for. But what I've often found in many people's stories, including my own, is that that concept of money actually takes them far away from their purpose. Now, I did the same thing when I first started my purpose-led business. Instead of following the very things that I wanted or what I was very good at, I'm a natural energy reader, I'm a great writer, I have lots of experience in these things, but instead I thought, well, what will people pay me for? And so I became a human design coach. Now, as I started doing one-on-ones, I realized that although it was a very exciting and interesting way to start my purpose-led business, it wasn't even pulling from my best gifts as a natural energy reader and as an author. And so I realized that I had completely gone off what my true purpose was, because I was so concerned and worried about how I was going to earn money and what people would pay me for. So I started kind of formulating a slightly different interpretation, very similar to the two modalities I just talked about, but in a different way that helps us to look more to ourselves to make that decision, rather than looking externally and making it about money. Now, a lot of the times it happens as well in my one-on-one self-activation sessions. People tell me all these ideas that they think they want to do for their conscious-led business. But when I really ask them about what they truly love to do, often they'll start talking about something completely different, and their entire body lights up with excitement. And yet that's the thing they're not following. And usually the thing that we want to do most is the thing we're scared of the most. Or it might be the thing that you're jealous of the most, or that triggers you the most when you see other people doing it, right? And so sometimes we think, oh no, that's not it, because that feels too much, or I'm so scared of that. But that usually is a pretty good sign that that's the thing you want to do. Now, as I said before, I use this in a slightly different way. I call it, how can you find your success niche? Now, I say success niche because when you're really tapped into your purpose and what you do best and what you excel at and what differentiates you from everybody else, when you find that, the success will naturally come. And this pulls a little bit from the human design belief too. When you are acting accordingly to your genetic and energetic makeup, everything else falls into place naturally. So let's talk about that. How do you find your success niche? Now, the four components that create your success niche are what you love, what you have lived, what you know, and who you are, or what you excel at. So let's talk a little bit about each of these things. Now, I've also put this in my free ebook about the 3 red flags that block people's gifted potential. So I'll put a link in the description. Go and get that. And that actually has a visual of what I'm talking about. And it's a really good thing to look at. And then you can go away and actually start journaling or writing about this to try and see what answers come up. So make sure you go and grab a copy of that. But we're going to talk about it here as well. So let's have a look at what you love. Now, our bodies always are guiding us to the very thing that excites us most, that interests us most, that we are passionate about. And we really need to tune into those body signals that are telling us, yes, Yes, that's the thing I want to do. And we so often ignore this because we're not really in tune with listening to our body. And you'll even see as you start this experiment, right? Your body will light up with excitement like, oh, I really want to do that. And then instantly the mind steps in and tries to rationalize or create the logical answer. And this is where that money thing can sometimes lead us astray, right? Then the mind is like, ooh, but is anyone going to pay you for that? Are you even going to be good at it, right? And all these doubts and fears and, lack of confidence steps in. But your body is guiding you to the very thing that interests you most, the thing you're passionate about. And trust me, if you try to follow anything else, right, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years down the track, you're not going to be passionate about it. You'll have to start this process again. So really, what you love is so important that you bring this into your purpose. Now, the components of finding your purpose are fulfillment, contentment, and as I said before, natural success. So if you're not passionate about it, 2 years down the track, you're really going to lack that fulfillment or you're really going to lack that contentment. And so you're not going to step into your success niche, right? So we really have to make sure that you're doing the thing that interests you most. Now, of course, this might change from time to time to time, and that's okay. You're allowed to have multiple interests. You're also allowed to change your interest. But what we want to make sure is that we're in tune with our body signals, constantly guiding you to what you love, right? Now, the second one, what you have lived. Now, what you have lived are your experiences. And this can be a really hard thing to grasp sometimes because some of us have had really bad experiences. Trust me, I know. I have been through, I've had a lot of childhood trauma and I've had many abusive relationships and I've had many things go wrong in my life. But when I look back and I think, well, what have I lived? What have I learned from those experiences? Because not everybody has had those experiences. Not everybody has lived through them to come out with the lesson. And each person has different experiences, good and bad. And usually our bad experiences, although they are very traumatic and terrible, they have lessons in them that make us the leader or the expert in that knowledge. No one else, if someone else hasn't lived it, they haven't got that wisdom. They don't have that lesson. That is not something that they can share with others. So what you have lived contributes to your purpose. It is something that differentiates you from everybody else. It gives you information and wisdom that other people don't have. And often we don't realize that we are already the experts from our lived experiences. So it's really important to look back at those experiences, good and bad. What experiences are you constantly attracted to that you can then go and help other people to perhaps stop being attracted to that? For example, if you've constantly found yourself in toxic relationships and then you really realize that and you learn how not to go into toxic relationships, that's a really important piece of information that you can share with other people, right? That really contributes to your purpose. Maybe not everyone has even got to that level of awareness, right? They haven't even got to that wisdom. So even just you sharing your insights of what you have lived can really help somebody. That can really be a part of your purpose, because our purpose really is what the world needs from us. The one thing that only we can do and know and say. And so what you have lived is a really important part of your purpose. Then we move on to what you know, what you see. Now, this is where I talk about how our brains process information, how our brains put together different pieces of information. And when you start talking to people, we really start to realize that we have different perspectives. We see the same topics from different angles. And the way that you see something, the way that you put together different streams of information to come up with a new angle or a new perspective or a new theory or a new idea or a new creation or a new philosophy. Whatever it is, you are constantly putting together information in your unique way. And the way that you bring together this information is unique. This is what you know. This is what you see. And a lot of times I see that people's purpose is really blocked because they don't have confidence to share what they see or what they know. They don't realize that the way that they're putting this information together or the way that they think is so unique. They think, oh, everybody thinks like this, or everybody sees those connections. But often this is not the case. It's often a very unique thing that differentiates somebody from everybody else. So you really need to start looking at the way that you see the world and your perspective and start putting more value and realizing how unique that is. And the more that you speak it out, that's really where we start to see how different and unique it is to what other people speak out. And so we really need to put this value on your ideas and your theories and your perspectives because it is unique. And this is really going to contribute to your success niche, right? Because that's the one thing that only you can do, what differentiates you from everybody else. Now, the fourth concept and the final concept is who you are, or what you are. And this is your genetic and energetic makeup. We have some limitations, right? Our purpose, for example, maybe you're, really short and terrible at sports, right? Probably your purpose is not going to be the world's best basketball player, right? So our limitations, or rather our gifts, are exactly who we are and what we are. Now, this incorporates both our strengths and our weaknesses, because our weaknesses or our vulnerabilities also help us create a very unique type of information. So, for example, in the human design system, I'm a reflector. This means that all of my energy centers are open, they're inconsistent, I'm very ungrounded daily, and I have to learn how to bring this all into balance every single day. And, the unbalanced side of that means that I constantly struggle with, overthinking, fluctuating self-esteem, fluctuating stress, fluctuating fear, because nothing is consistent. And I used to get so undermined by this and think, why me? Why do I have to suffer so much, right? When I see people and they're so grounded and they know exactly what they want to do and they're not, troubled by overthinking and anxiety, and I think, why can't I be like that? But then I realize there's also a gift in exactly who I am in both my strengths and my weaknesses. Because once I learned how to break through those vulnerabilities, or how to manage or balance those vulnerabilities, I realized that then gave me a unique lived experience. So now, because of who I naturally am, I now have a success niche to go and help other people with how to balance their overthinking and how to balance their fluctuating self-esteem. And you'll see that, this is exactly what really inspired me to create my Self-Activation Academy and my first course, Dysfunctional, which helps people transform from the dysfunctional behavior into the functional gift, which came from exactly my own lived experiences based on who I was energetically and genetically, right? So there is power in success, no matter who you are, no matter what your downfalls are, no matter what your vulnerabilities are, no matter what your poor or terrible lived experiences are. There is power and uniqueness and differentiation in all of these things when we bring them together, because this is the one thing that no one else can do and no one else can talk about. And especially when we tap into who we are genetically and energetically, this is also when we can start to speak freely and with confidence. You don't have to think about it. It's already there inside of you. You just speak naturally and all this information comes out. And so when we look at our strengths and our vulnerabilities, it's really important not to lament them, but to look at how they contribute to something unique that you can share with others. And we can also start to look at how we really need to hone in on the gifts that we are best at. So even, for example, as I said before about how I started this human design business, I realized that there were other people who had much better memory retention, for example. There's a lot of information in human design. And I'm a more abstract thinker. I'm a more creative and intuitive person. So someone who is perhaps a more logical and rational thinker, or someone who's really great at holding very strategic and focused information, they are so good at just remembering all those fine details of human design. So I was trying to compete in a niche that I wasn't really excelling at. But I'm a great person at energy reading and intuitive readings. And I realized that if I just transitioned even the way that I use human design, right? So I transitioned from being just a normal human design reader to being an intuitive self-activator, all of a sudden I started focusing on the very specific gifts that I excel at. Because these other people who might be very focus-minded, they're not as good as that intuitive reading like I am. And we both have a place in this world, and both of these gifts are really unique. There is no point that one of us is trying to compete in the other person's field, right? Because it's not our strengths. And so when we really start to even, list our strengths according to the strongest down to maybe the lesser strengths, this even helps us to focus and redirect our energy to the things that we are really going to be best at. And, not putting so much focus and energy into the things or trying to work and become, excel at the things that we're not so good at. Right? So this can really help us even just whittle down our ideas to make sure that it's really pulling from what we genetically are very, very good at and what comes to us most naturally. Because the whole concept of finding your purpose is that you find ease and flow and natural success, right? You want to use less energy and get more reward in return. And we do this when we're exactly in tune to our natural gifts and our natural vulnerabilities. And also what I see often is that people try to push through these vulnerabilities, or they're working from their weaknesses. So even, for example, maybe you're not really good at having structured days, right? Maybe you're a more abstract worker, but if you spend all day trying to stick to your to-do list, and then all you do is find yourself procrastinating all day, but you keep trying to push yourself through that because you believe that that's a strength of yours, or that you need to push through that vulnerability, it means you're constantly working with your weaknesses. Instead of saying, oh, I'm an abstract worker and I actually procrastinate less if I allow myself to go throughout the day as I feel, right? Instead of trying to stick to this very strict plan. And that's a way how you can start to work from your strengths and understand your weaknesses. So this is how knowing who you are or what you are can really help you also really fine-tune that success niche. And when we find our success niche, and if you create your business or your lifestyle from this success niche, it's the one thing only you can do. And nobody can copy your success niche. Nobody can compete against you in your success niche. And many times people come to me and they've got this idea, and maybe it's a really new and innovative idea, but they're so scared of, putting it out before they're ready, or they're so scared of people copying them. And sometimes they have started their business, or they start talking about these ideas, and people do copy them. And all of a sudden they think, well, there goes my great business plan. Now I'm never going to have success. And I always tell them, there is no power in just an idea, right? The way that you integrate it, the way that you bring who you are, what you love, what you've lived, what you know, the way that all of that will feed into that idea to bring about a very unique niche that only you can present those ideas in the way that you do it, with your flair, with your strengths. Nobody can copy that. So it doesn't matter if someone copies your idea. They can never copy you. They can never copy your niche. They can never copy the way that you deliver it. And so you will always find your success and your individual place in your success niche. Now, this is just a start to understanding how to start taking those first steps towards our purpose and towards our success niche and the thing we do best. Now, this is obviously a very long path. It's not like you wake up one day and you're like, this is it, I found my purpose. And even if you've had a spiritual awakening or a breakdown or a midlife crisis or whatever that was for you, understanding your purpose is only step one, or getting closer to your success niche is only step one. Then we have to live it. And sometimes the answer comes along the journey. Sometimes you still have to take that first step without really knowing where you're going, because we still have to live out the experiences, and we still might get it wrong because the experience is going to constantly refine that idea for us. And so this is why I started the Self-Activation Academy, so you have that support month by month as you're taking these steps, as you're making these mistakes, as you're trying to release all that external influences that actually take you off from understanding what your strengths are. Or, maybe the pain of your lived experiences is still blocking the wisdom that needs to come through. So it's not going to be an easy path. And that's why I just love to hold people's hands as they're doing it. And of course, as part of the Self-Activation Academy, there is weekly life coaching with me. And there's also courses, and there's just a really great community, and we're launching this all in August. So I hope you join me there. But in the meantime, go and subscribe to my channel, because week by week, I will be posting videos on how you can self-activate your success niche and how you can step into your gifted potential so that you can find your purpose. So I hope you join me, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.